Hey, Shalom, Shalom. I'm going to start off. So, by giving no praise to Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, Shah, Shem, and Kakodash, that belongs to the apostles of GMS and honesty, brothers, and work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. So, I got this article here from Le Guardian. It says UK facing risk of systemic economic crisis. Official paper says this is exclusive. Cabinet office briefing seen by Guardian warns that Brexit, COVID, flu, flooding, and unrest could lead to chaos. Now, that that turn of phrasing there is very interesting because we already know what the elites do. The elites are all about that chaos because out of that chaos, right, they can bring in the order, right? So this is Revelation 12:12, right? It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Okay, so from the point of this chaos that Esau here is pushing, he's basically creating the what's the word I'm looking for? He's creating the ingredients for him to come down with great wrath, right? That's why he's pushing all of these different things from here, there, and everywhere, because uh, uh, uh he's planning to come down, right? Which is, like I said, for me personally, that is most proof that this whole particular situation that we're in at the moment, that's for me is proof that it's all BS, because how is it perfectly timed with Brexit? Okay, as the government has privately admitted that the UK faces an increased likelihood of systemic economic crisis as it completes its exit from the EU in the middle of a second wave of coronavirus pandemic. Confidential cabinet office briefing seen by the Guardian also warns of a notable risk. Okay, it says winter 2020 could see a combination of severe floods, pandemic influenza, novel emerging infectious disease, and coordinated industrial action against a backdrop at the end of the Brexit transition period. Okay, so basically they're saying, look, England's fucked, right? You got that saying, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen," right? They used to say back in the day, "The sun never sets on the British Empire." Well, Britain's through, right? So let me just see if there are any. Okay, so global and British food supply chains will be disrupted by circumstances occurring concurrently at the end of the year. Oh man. Right, and these are all of the things that we've been looking for, we've been praying for, right? Because what you see there is Esau. Once again, he's created all of these different scenarios, right? He's created all these scenarios so that we end up in the situation that we're in right now, right? So what do you call it? So let's say, so this is Second Ezra 15, right? So would you call I mean, there's a lot in this chapter and the next chapter, even in terms of, so I'll read second Ezra 15:19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but this shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and great tribulation. So this is what Esau's creating. He's creating a situation where people will literally be doing these things, right? Basically looking, trying, killing, their neighbors, having no pity upon their neighbors, because there's going to be a lack of food, right? There's going to be a lack of food, and people are going to, what did the Joker say? When the chips are down, these so-called civilized people, they shall eat each other, man. So this is Second Ezra 16. Let me just find the verse. Just bear with me. Let me find it. So it was further up, Second Ezra 16. But let me read up. All right, this is verse 21. Yeah, it says, behold, victual shall be so good cheap upon the earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So victuals, these are things that you buy, right? You really consider it. They're cheap at the moment. You go to the shop, you buy whatever you want, decent price, right? So everyone really is not really considering, right? But in the background of all of this, the all of the what's the word I'm looking for? All of the ingredients. Oh, it's just I've done that twice now. All of the ingredients, right, for a famine are basically being brewed, right? We just read it there in that article. You had this coronavirus. You had farmers having, because of this coronavirus, farmers having to not being able to pick their fruit. The harvest was damaged, right? Having to kill some of their animals. Okay. So whilst, you know, because of all of these different things, right, famine is going to be coming upon the land, right? So it goes on to say, verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, right? So basically, what's this going into? It's going into the fact that a lot of people are just gonna die straight up from famine, man. Why? Because Esau's created a society where everyone depends on Esau. You read that in the curses. So you shall go on to this man in want of all things, right? So basically, Esau has created this society where everyone is going to this man looking, for food. You think about city dwellers, right? Well, where's your garden? And if you have a garden, how much can you, reasonably grow on that? And how long will that amount of food last you? Not long. Right, so guess what? You got to go to Esau for your food. What about water? Where's your nearest clean water source? Right, which clean water, that's a big thing, man. Right? So it's basically saying, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. So yeah, we continue. I'm trying to find good bits. Right, it says global and British food supplies. Yeah. Stockpiles build up at the end. Ha 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 ha, man. Stockpiles built up at the end of the 2019 were diminished during the pandemic and cannot be easily replenished. Right, there will not be overall food shortages, which that's not true, because that's where this is gonna end, right? But problems could reduce availability of some fresh supplies and push up prices. Like low income groups will be most at risk of food insecurity if there's a no deal Brexit, including single parents, children in large families, and those with disabilities. So the first two, that is Jake, right? That first two, that is Jake, right? So what is Esau going to do? Esau's going to have to come up with a solution, right? And we, need I say what that solution is, right? Because this is one of the many ways when you when you are dependent on Esau for everything, he can mold you whichever way he wants you to go, right? Now, not whether they're gonna push the chip from the back of this Brexit, that's not what I'm saying. They may do, they may, I don't know, right? But the point that I'm making is, right, with all of these different chess moves that Esau is playing, we know that the end goal is the chip. It's the only thing that makes sense, right? So let's grab it. This is Revelation 13:16. Okay, it says, and he causeth all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads. Right? So all means exactly that. Right? So, Job 9:24 says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So Esau's gonna do his best to make sure that everyone on the face of the planet Earth has this mark of the beast, man. Right now, you might be like, oh, what about, in this, these third world countries? Well, you go to these third world countries and a lot of people have passports, man. Right? A lot of people have passports. So, even on that, right, that's already showing you that the ability to, uh, uh, um, get certain bits of legislation, get certain bits of ideology over there into the quote third world is not that big a deal, right? And you know what, with this whole Rona, where they're trying to put a serum in everyone, right? That's gonna be a good logistical step for them to try and work out how they would go about basically putting that serum into everyone, okay? Because it's the same tools, You think about it, all you need is a needle, right? So if they can, would you could find a way of working, work through the logistics with these with these serum administrations that they're planning to start from from around mid-December onwards, right? Then really they can find a way of putting the mark of the beast in everyone, right? Both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, right? To basically receive this mark anywhere in their body, because to take this mark is to say that this is your God, right? This is your master. You read that in the law. If a man had if a slave, utterly loved his master, right? Basically, the master, he would go to the judges, and then the basically he would get an all his. Let me just grab it because I'm absolutely butchering Salah. It says Exodus 21 and 5, just to jump straight to the point. It says, "And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free." Right? It says, "Then his master shall bring him on unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear with an awl. He shall serve him forever." And this is what Esau's trying to emulate. Esau's trying to emulate a this particular thing. You basically saying that he is your master and you're gonna serve him forever. Why? Because you love your wife and your children. Basically, you love your the life that he's afforded you. Okay, because there's a we just gotta keep it real. We hope that the Lord has mercy on our family. Right, but we don't know whether our women are gonna be down. Our women, our family's gonna be down, or whether they gonna be like the woman in the road, Charlize Theron's character in The Road, where she just says, "Look, man, I ain't built for this," and then she dipped. Right now, if may be presented in those situations where your woman's like, "Look, man, I'm gonna go take the chip. If you love me, then you gonna take it too." Right? But that's when we draw the line, like, "Look, man, hey, you do that and be destroyed. We gotta carry on." Right? But this is what Esau's trying to say. Hey, if you want to keep the things that you love, right, hey, you gotta get this chip, right? So where were we? Let me see if there's, because I think there were a few good points in this article. Whew. Says economic chaos could raise the risk of breakdown in public order and a national mental health crisis, while reducing the financial levers available for the government to respond to other risks. This description of planning assumptions warns. Right. Uh, do, do, do. So just looking for. And I mean, hey, this is so adult social care provision is a particular concern with the civil service, admitting it is acutely aware of the risk posed by potential labour shortages caused by Brexit because of reliance on EU citizens and the workforce already stretched by pandemic controls. So the government had not expected Brexit to cause a major change in this area, but an increase in inflation that pushes up staff and supply costs may lead to provider failure, right? So, hey, this makes you think of this particular scripture in Isaiah, right? It says Isaiah 13 and 14. Do you want to start up? Yeah, and 14 says, "And it shall be as a chased roe and as sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people and flee everyone into his own land." And you've been kind of seeing that beginning already. People basically just saying, "Look, man, F this." They're going back to their own lands. Hey, these are all mask mandates, right? All of these things are being mandated, made certain people just be like, "Look, man, fuck this. I'm gonna go back to my own home country." Why? Because they're like, "Why am I gonna stay here?" Right? Having to breathe in your own outgoings all day damn long, and whilst you're trying to do a job, right? You have businesses break down. And then now in the UK, they've made it even more difficult for certain, for these EU citizens to just come over willy nilly. All right, so what do you think is gonna happen? You're just gonna have certain people saying, actually, before my family could just come over, or before I could just go and visit my family, I can't really do that anymore. Whereas you've got other, more attractive options in Europe where those particular individuals could go instead. Okay. Um, Okay, so here we go. So, in fact, let me just read from here, right? So the scenarios assuming significant winter resurgence of COVID, with cases increasing through October and November, exactly the trajectory the country was on before the second national lockdown. Though there is evidence infections are now falling, says controls to combat this new rise in cases may severely damage the economy. Right, recovery is negligible. Consumer and investor confidence remains low in the long term. International trade is severely disrupted. The description of fallout from a surge of infections warns, right? So basically saying England is through, right? It says the government may struggle to get help from the private sector as the pandemic has left many of the UK's businesses with diminished capacity to deal with any financial shock caused by Brexit, right? So once again, right, it's this whole thing about Brexit basically being timed perfectly for this whole pandemic situation, right? But like I said, you can carry on reading. In fact, there's not much left there anyway. I think I've hit a lot of the uh, 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 a lot of the points, right? Um, it goes into how local councils, our finances are particularly shaky, and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, man, England's through, man. Right, just on the last point, I'm gonna get this. It says was it Proverbs, not Proverbs, Ecclesiastes 12:3. Right, it says, and the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. Right, so it says, and the grinders cease because they are few. Talking about work, right? This work is drying up. Like the jobs are going. Right, I reading someone basically who works as a recruiter basically made a statement online, and they're basically saying, look, man, back in the day, people would normally only 20 people would normally apply for this role, right? But since the pandemic, over 400 people applied for that same role. So what's that basically telling you? That's telling you that a lot of people are jobless, man, right? And do you know what happens when you get a lot of people jobless? Employers don't want to pay as much, right? So what does that do? That feeds that the economic destruction, basically, if you will, right? Because employers aren't basically like, look, this job, let's say this job used to pay £10 a year, so hey, now we're gonna pay you £8 a year, and you know what, people are gonna take it. But what does that mean? That means that particular person has £2 less to spend a year. Okay, which means, once again, it's just feeding that whole cycle of the breakdown of this man's economy. All right. It says, yeah, so verse 4 now says, and it says, and those that look out the windows be darkened. Right. So these forecasters, man, right, these financial forecasters, yeah, right now things might be like, oh, the Dow Jones hitting this, that, and the other, right? But the guys in the know, hey, they know this kingdom's through, man. Right? They know this economic system's through. Right, verse 4 says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. And you go through central London, you see London's through. Oxford Circus through. Hardly anyone there, right? Because when we finished camp last week, where I was with the brother, and we was just on our train back, and we went through Oxford Circus at 5 p.m. right, on the Victoria line. Oxford Circus, 5 p.m. Went past there, and the whole the whole platform was empty. It was maybe like 3 people, And it was like, yo, it's 5 p.m. on a Saturday, a couple of weeks before Christmas at Oxford Circus. Last year, that place would have been rammed. But it's not, because it's the end of this man's kingdom, right? It says, so and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. So all these shops closing up, boarding up. There's a lot of shops, a lot of restaurants closed, gone for good, right? You're just going to be left with your Wendy's, your KFCs, and McDonald's, right? It says, when the sound of grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low, right? So, as always, Lord's what I was edifying. Till next time. Shalom.